Welcome everybody to today's session, the third of our series, Sustainability is Better Business. Today we're going to have Stephanie Estoppey as our speaker. She has a background in art and she studied industrial design, after which she had many experiences as an interior designer and a product designer, which then led her to found Studiocolony, a company which is committed to a circular economy way of thinking, doing business that focuses on innovative design methodologies, which I'm sure we'll hear more about today. So Stephanie, I don't want to take more time away, and I pass the word on to you.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here. Thank you. I am Stephanie Estoppey. I'm the co-founder of Studiocolony. I will start to share the presentation so you can see something. Yeah. All right. Well, so, can you see it now in the full screen?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. Yes, as I mentioned, I'm Stephanie Estoppey. My business partner is Ozan Alaka. Together we founded Studiocolony in 2012 in Basel. Previously we studied together and we were both in all different kind of studios, in international studios in Munich, London and New York. And then we came back to Basel and founded the studio. Now we grew to a team of 4. And as sustainability is really a core value for us, we are engaged also in a lot of different activities. I'm happy to be in the nomination team of the Designpreis Schweiz. There is a new category called Going Circular Design. It's the first year now this year with this category, and I am also a consortium member of the End-to-End Innovation Booster with the topic Applied Circular Sustainability, where we have the goal to push Swiss companies in developing products that are circular and radically innovative. So this is quite a nice program, just started also in January. It's the first year running now. Until now we've got 12 teams which are funded and get the support financially and by the know-how of the consortium members from all different kind of perspectives of circularity. So this is what we do next to the daily business of product design. So what we do is from furniture systems to drinking bottles, everything, all different kind of consumer goods, always with a strong focus on sustainability, aesthetics, and user friendliness. So we are really convinced that those 3 parts, they need to fit together, because sustainability alone is not something that the customers really want to buy. So it needs a certain aesthetic, or you can call it also a sexiness, that user will accept it. And if it's not user friendly, the customer is not happy with the product, so he will not buy or use it anymore. So that's why we're convinced that those 3 parts really need to stick together. Yeah. For example, we did this it's a refillable packaging. This is right now nominated for the German Eco Design Award. So we're really happy to be there, and hopefully, yeah, this story will continue. Yeah. Then today we're talking about sustainability and circular design, and why it is important, and how we can do better business with circular economy business models. Just to jump into the subject, I would like to start with this short quote of Ellen MacArthur Foundation. The goal of the circular economy is a circular economy is based on the principles of designing out waste and pollution, keeping products and materials in use, and regenerating natural systems. When we hear circular economy, we often come by this butterfly diagram, also from Ellen MacArthur Foundation. When you see those circles in the middle and the flow of material, sometimes it seems really a little bit overwhelming for the first sight. So I would like to split it up a little bit and make it easier to digest. As I said, it's all about cycles, these both circles, and using material in cycles is really the goal. So products do not end up in waste, but can be used or reused in a technical way. As you think of PET, for example, they can be recycled in a technical way. Or on the other hand, you can work with the biological cycle, where products are biodegradable or even bio-based and biodegradable. So you close this loop that in the end of life, they can be the basis for something new, for a new product. But there's much more than the cycles in this graphic of the butterfly diagram. And this is the value. And I would like to focus on that. As we know, the linear value hill works like this. When we've got a linear system, we have an extraction of material, then it goes to the manufacturing, then it goes to the assembly, and in the end, we put the price tag on it and bring it to the retail. So this is all those steps, they add a lot of value to this end product. And it's in the pre-use phase. Then the happy customer goes there and buys the product. He uses it for a shorter or longer period, depends on what it is and how it works. And after that, in the end of the usage phase, all this value is destroyed. And on the other hand, there is the circular value hill. And now you can see the goal is that this added value can be retained. And there are all different kind of steps where it can be retained. So often people think, circular economy, it's only recycling. But as we see, recycling is just the bottom part. When you go to when something is recyclable, you can leave out the extraction and go directly to the manufacturing. So you gain one step. But there are a lot of different steps. You can go even in a higher way. So when you have something that is remanufacturable, you don't have to go down and extract again the same material, but you can retain this value on a very high level. Yeah, so that something is properly recyclable, it needs non-toxic materials. Then that you can use it for the remanufacturing, it needs a modular design, so an easy disassembly is possible. For example, maybe you know this Barmix hand mixer. They've got a lifetime guarantee on their motor inside it. So it must be easy to take this motor out, so you can change the outer shell. If it looks bad after years, or if it's broken, the plastic is broken somewhere, you can change that. But you can take out the motor you once built and use it in a completely new other product. So, but this needs a modular design and must be thought in that way from the beginning. Then we've got the point refurbishment, reuse, or redistribute. This needs a longevity or a universal design. So to make this possible, it's not good to have something that is only nice to look at for a very short period. But when we say something that can be used again, like a very nice old furniture that can be sanded down a little bit, that looks nice again, it's really something that is durable. And on the fourth part, it's important that you enable repair and maintaining. So to keep all those principles in a big overview, it's the non-toxic materials that we should think of. It's the easy disassembly, so things can be taken apart, even if they're a mix of material. Maybe the inside of something is something different than the outer shell. You can take it apart and recycle it separately, or you can reuse one part. Then modularity is always a big thing. Technological progress, for example, some inside stuff changes or develops, then you can modularly change this. As we think of the Fairphone or something, a new camera, you can change those things. Exactly. Longevity, I mentioned before. Maintenance and repair. So something is not glued together in a way you can never take it apart again. And last but not least, it's very important that you've got an emotional binding to this product, because if you are emotionally attached to something, you always care automatically. Why is this so important? 80% of the environmental pollution and 90% of manufacturing costs are the results of decisions taken at the product design stage. So in a very early stage, we've got a big impact. So we as a designer should be aware of that, and all other team members should be aware of the impact these decisions have later on. And today, the product development often is like, the management says we need a new product. The marketing says it has to fit this or that client. And it should look in this way, should look very nice, fit to another story, and so on. So the accounting comes and says, it has to cost at max that price, and the R&D says, oh, we could build it that way, and they all think, okay, that should be the product. Let's take the designer, and his approach is, or his goal is to make it pretty. But as we know that it really needs a lot of good decisions in the very beginning, it should rather be a team from the start. So everyone bringing together their knowledge and discussing how can we apply those principles. This is really the circular approach, to be this a good team from the start. The potential in this circular design is really competitiveness and future viability through a sustainable strategy. There are a lot of acquisition of new business models in this, as you think, for example, regarding this value hill I showed before. When you think of product as a service, so something you don't have to buy, but you use it, and if you don't use it, someone else can use it. Then you've got a new customer relationship through those product as a service models. You can engage the customer and really care about their problems. Then you've got often a cost reduction. So if you don't have to extract all the material, but you can use waste from another industry, then you often cut down the costs. Then it's also a greater independence of raw material and their pricing. As we know now, is a big problem that a lot of raw material is not available, or the prices go high up. If you care and maybe have, for example, a take-back system for your broken material, and you can remanufacture those, you're not that dependent on those things. It's also an achievement of climate targets that you can meet with those goals. And as we know especially from the EU Green Deal, meet regulations concerning sustainability. But now this was a lot of theory just in a very packed way. How can this work? I would like to show you some examples going the value hill up again. So we start by the recycling. Sorry, I need to drink a little bit. When we start by the recycling, so the very bottom line, there is bread beer, a small label of in Switzerland, that uses bread that is not that was not sold in Switzerland. Every fourth loaf of bread in Switzerland remains on the shelf. They collect those breads, they dry it and grind it and use it for the beer production. And their gain is that they use 1/3 less barley malt and even save food from disposal. So it's really tasty. It's not just okay, it's a good story, but doesn't taste well. It's really nice and very nice beer. Then when we go to the second step, one level higher on the value hill, one example is remanufacturing, a very young startup called ID Watch. They've got a really nice circular story in their whole business model. They remanufacture movements of other mechanical watches. So they really reuse them and clean them, polish them, and they're really like new ones, working forever. They use also 100% recycled regional steel for the outer part. The band is made out of upcycled food residue from grapes, and they even got a cradle-to-cradle gold standard certified packaging, which is home compostable, made out of mycelium, it's called. Yeah. They really gain a lot of lower CO2 emissions, and they've got a big cost reduction in making business that way, as you can imagine. Then even one step, a next step is refurbishment, remanufacturing by Gilsberger. Gilsberger is a very famous furniture brand in Switzerland. They do this remanufacturing on a very professional way for large quantities of furniture, for example, for chairs used in a retirement home. They collect those and refurbish them completely, so they really look nice again and last for decades. The material savings they do are approximately 58% of material that they can reuse again. So all the wooden part can be reused. A lot of different parts also depends on the furniture. And a lot of people think, oh, but this must really be expensive to bring the furniture back to Gilsberger, remanufacture it, and bring it back. But they save approximately 50% of the costs compared to the disposal of the old ones and purchase of new furniture. So it's really worth, and it's a really good, very fast-growing model, which Gilsberger remanufacture uses. Then something I've got a little bit too much sun inside here. Then something we know, maybe when we go by train, the SBB tested right now, or has it right now, this cookie system. It's a reusable cup system, because every day 1.6 billion cups are used. It's a crazy number of disposable cups which are thrown away every day. And this cookie cup can be returned on a lot of different stations, and it connects with this app and gives you the deposit back. So it's a really comfortable way. That's why I make the link again to the user-centered design, which doesn't have to contradict sustainability or circularity. And in the end, if it's broken after several cycles when it's used, it's 100% recyclable. Then a very nice example, also from Switzerland, is Neumühle. It's a fashion brand which developed a circular jacket. They use, for example, dead stock, so rest material of the big brands in Italy. They use this as a material, and also this Econil, so upcycled or recycled textile. And they built their jacket in a very low circle, so it's not parts from all over the world they use, but in a quite short surrounding. Everything is every part is made in mono material, so the parts can be used again, so can be separated again and recycled. They've got a take-back system, so when the jacket is broken, you give it back and you get a voucher for a new one for 20%. And before that, every time it's broken and it can be repaired, you've got a 5-year free repair service at their company. So you can return the jacket and they repair it for you. They now even work on a circular vest, which doesn't even have to be disassembled because it's all made of one single material. Yeah, and that was it. That was just some example. There are a lot more. I tried to pick not the most famous, but a good mixture between all different kind of examples working for the circular economy with circular design principles. Thank you very much. Now I'm happy to answer questions or discuss.
I guess if you stop sharing your screen, you can see the response.
Yeah.
So now the floor is open to some questions or discussions. And if not, maybe I kick off with one general question. Often with circular economy, we have this idea that the whole system needs to change and needs to enable a circular design, the circular principle, the circular way of thinking. It's a systematic thing. Do you agree with it, or do you think it's also possible for a single company to have a business model that enables it? And if yes, how? Some general guidelines or tips.
Yeah, that's a good question. We often discuss this because it seems to be easier to start from the beginning with a circular business model. So for a startup that starts on a blank table, it's easier to go that way. But as I showed before, the example of Gilsberger has one division with this remanufacturing part. and they go fully circular in that way. But they still have the old division that does office furniture in a linear way. So it's not a contradiction. It's also possible to do both. But I guess it's easier to start from the very beginning, because I think often it's
I have a question. If you sell your services to a company, to whom do you sell? So who do you talk to at the company, and who do you need to convince to buy your services?
It's a good question. Normally, we've got the contact only with the R&D and with the product managers. But as we often talk to companies that are still on a linear way, we need to be in contact also with the management. So if we're in contact with the management, it's much easier to convince them, to show them the value they can gain out of these principles. Sometimes it's not possible to directly address the managers, but yeah, often is really a good point to go directly with them and convince them. But even when we are not able to address the management directly, we bring different, how can I say it? I lost the word. Vorschläge.
Options, scenarios.
Yeah, different. We present different options of solutions we should design, and we've got this circularity in mind. So when someone asks us for a new Tupperware, for example, we can solve this problem in a linear way or in a circular, and we can offer them both and show them really how can they profit also when they go circular. Sometimes it's a cost reduction, sometimes it's easier to manufacture, sometimes it's easier to recycle in the end. And this is often quite a nice start to get companies involved that are not yet that convinced or that deep in this subject.
I'm asking the question because you showed this diagram of how the project team should work together in like an integrated way or in a dispersed way. And yeah, I think successful companies here, and among you showed some of them, they need to change their communication. They need to change probably their business model, so selling stuff differently, giving rebates in other moments. And this usually you don't get if just the R&D team says, hey, we have like this old cup, design a new cup and save costs.
Yeah, that's absolutely. That's the strategy is more to get the foot in the door to go in that direction. You can come with, look, you can go that way or you can go that way with this designed Tupperware or whatever. But in the next step, you really have to involve all the people and be one team and work on the communication and bring a lot of perspective together to manage this challenge, of course.
Yeah, thank you.
Maybe a comment to add to that. Not only for the company side that they need to be ready to jump into this circularity model, but also from the consumer side, how can we integrate them into this? I mean, you saw a few examples here, which I already saw a few, but others I don't know. And actually, it's us, the consumers, who are bearing or taking over this cost, which is higher for us. Yeah. And yeah, how can we access to this? How can we show it better for the consumers to understand how is this transition going to happen?
Yeah, this needs a lot of communication and a lot of transparent storytelling, sort of, also, so the customer really understands what's behind and why does it look that way and why does it work that way. And also, it's still a sort of abstract way for a lot of customers to get the point of not possessing something. So, for example, my jeans here is from Mutt Jeans. It's a company where you can only use the jeans, and you pay a monthly fee for them. And after a certain period, when they've got holes or you don't like the model anymore, you return them to them, and they build new jeans out of it.
It's kind of a leasing model,
business model. Leasing model, yeah. And this gives a lot of opportunity also for the communication with the customers. So you involve them, you invite them to share their experience with the jeans. You get the newsletters, what they do with your old jeans, and so on. But it's still a long way to go. We're really in the middle, or in the start of this transition.
Well, I think, but just what you mentioned, the communication, this is like the holy grail of these companies. They used to sell through resellers because they didn't have like the end consumer's contact. So no opportunity to convince a consumer of anything because you don't have to. And I think this is a very nice example of added value, not just selling stuff that is more meaningful, but also having a much better relation to the end client.
Yes, and this is also a really big important point to develop new products. You have the insights of your customers, so you can develop a product that fits even more or even better the needs of your clients. And this convinces the client even more to stay on your company and buy those products or use those products. So it's a huge potential in customer relationship. Yeah.
Maybe I jump in with a bit of provocative question. You mentioned all the advantages of a circular design and obviously also a circular business model, but if it's so good, why are people not doing it? Where do you think lies the biggest resistance? Is it a question of education and informing the people that they just don't know this way of thinking, or are there other barriers to it?
This is quite a tricky question because it's not doesn't request a single answer. So I think one part is sort of fear to change what's still working. But I guess in this situation we are right now with a lack of wood, a lack of paper, lack of a lot of stuff, some companies really start to rethink of those resources. So this might accelerate a little bit the convincement to try new ways, because when you have to wait several months for your material you use every day, then maybe it's a motivation to think of how can I get the material back I spent once if it's not used anymore. So this is one side is the fear of going in a new direction because there's a lot of transition. The other hand is the pressure from the resource side. Then I think also politics is a big issue. The EU that does a lot of regulations now concerning one-way single-use plastics. This really boosts also a lot of new solutions. Yeah.
Thank you. And maybe elaborating on that, if you would have one advice for a company who wants to change a bit the product design or the business model, going from a linear to a circular way, what would it be?
I would convince them to dare to start somewhere, because that's the biggest challenge. This topic often seems to be so complex and so complicated that a lot of people think, I don't know where to start. How shall I have to rethink my whole business model. Maybe you should in the future, but you can start on a very low level, maybe with not using virgin material. Maybe your material is available in a recycled way, and then you can climb up this value hill step by step. So I think the worst thing you can do is really be paralyzed and not doing anything.
Thank you. I like that approach. We need more dreamers and visionaries that start things.
Courageous people daring new stuff. Yeah, dare to do new stuff. Tiziano, any question from your side?
You're looking at me, okay.
I saw you.
No, I'm thinking about, of course, thank you so much for your sharings. My question could be related with apparently the easy way to redesign a product with the circular approach. And we saw that there are some models and some certifications like the Cradle to Cradle that is giving you a checklist, for example. And it's quite I don't want to say easy, but from the outside perspective, okay, I have a checklist, and then I'm going through the checklist for redesigning my product. Have you experienced this? Okay, I have everything, and I'm starting to check this. What's happening there?
Yeah, of course, you can start with checklists, especially on the material side. Yeah, sometimes it's difficult if you are too open in what you do and how you do it. You've got too many options on one point. So there are a lot of helpful checklists giving you advices which material can you use, and then it seems to be an easy way to just follow this checklist and everything is good. But as a lot of business models and a lot of manufacturing process are focused on bringing all kind of different materials together in a way they're not able to be separated again, you have to also find the right manufacturer, the right processes, and this sometimes is quite tricky. It depends a lot on the product and a lot on the process, but it can be really easy and straightforward, but it also can be quite a hard nut to crack.
And from your experience, there are some products that are easier to rethink or redesign in the circular perspective or approach than others. Have you perceived this?
It's difficult to answer it in general. I think everything coming into contact with food is quite complicated because of all these FDA certifications and so on, which makes absolutely sense, but this makes it even a little bit more complicated and gives you less material to choose. So this is a quite complex subject, but on a furniture side, there is a big variety of different materials and principles of circular design. You can easily just do it.
And maybe another one from me. The relationship between the positive impact and the circular design in choosing the materials, for example. So is in the circular design mindset, you could also step on some materials that are not particularly sustainable, but you can use it. So there's no way to say, no, you don't have to. And we enter the idea of the retoxing. You know, if you use toxic materials, then you are reusing the same materials time over time. So what's the relationship between circular design and sustainability, with meaning choosing the right materials that are harming people and planet?
Yeah, this is quite interesting, because a lot of people think, it's sustainable, it cannot be plastic, for example. But plastic can be used in a very circular way and in a very sustainable way if you do it right. If you put different plastics together, or you use plastics that cannot be recycled, it's a big problem. But if you design it that way, like this packaging I showed in the beginning, this refillable tube we did, it absolutely makes sense, because there are certain requirements. You need to use plastics and cannot go to glass or wood or metal. So it makes sense to use plastic sometimes, but you have to rethink really to the end what happens if it's broken, if it's not used anymore. How can you recycle it and bring it back, not to the natural, normally not to the natural cycle, but also there are different solutions, biodegradable, bio-based plastics, but most of the times to a technical cycle, so it can be reused.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think that's a good point where to end this session. Like a good message. It's not about the materials themselves, but about the way of thinking, about the whole process and about the design. Thank you, Stephanie, for your time and for instructing us on these principles and showing us a bit of your work. Thank you for the time. And everybody, please join us next week, where we're going to talk about the barriers to behavioral change. So as you mentioned today, Stephanie, a lot of things has to change the minds of the people. But how do we do this? What are the barriers and the resistances in it? And if you're joining on YouTube, you will see somewhere around here a recommendation video. And yeah, thank you again for your time and for joining in this session.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephanie. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Ciao, Stephanie.
Bye.